Hello there. We divided this best of episode into 3 parts, so I apologize for the abrupt breaks, but you will be inspired by Lindy's story. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Spirit-Centered Business Podcast, where we blend the spiritual with the practical for supernatural results. Now, here is your host, Bralynn Newby.
Never let me go. He would hound me and hound me. So I spent 12 years in the wilderness of unforgiveness because I wouldn't forgive. Anyway, the beginning of my healing journey was beginning to forgive. And the day I made a decision, okay, I'm going to do this, I went and I bought as many tissue boxes as I could get because I knew that it was going to be a snotty journey. Mm-hmm. And for about 3 or 4 weeks, I just cried every single day. And I just said to the Lord, okay, let's look at this area of my life. Let's look at this area of my life. Because I had basically just closed down everything. Okay? That was my protection mechanism. I was closed down everything. So my first part of my healing journey was around forgiveness. And when I got stuck, he would send somebody who knew how to help me navigate my stuckness. And so then they would help, they'd pray with me and they'd bring some words of wisdom, which would give me keys. And so I'd carry on with my journey. But what happened when I really started to move into the fullness was I decided that I was going to look at every single response that I had in my life that didn't look like Jesus. Mm. Okay? And what I absolutely knew was that every single response had a trigger. Mm. And I lived in a place of constant simmer. So what that means is there was so much anger inside of me that I lived in a place where I was just able to keep a lid on it. But if anything small could trigger it, and I would explode like it was the end of the world. Wow. So I've had to really, my son and I have done some work together because he took the brunt of it. By the time my daughter got to an age, I'd already walked probably 75% of my inner healing journey. But my son and I are very close, but I have had to apologize over and over and over and over to him for all sorts of things, Wow. So I made the decision that I was going to look at every trigger, and I still live in that place. Okay, because until such time as we look like Jesus, there's still work to be done. Until such time as we function like Jesus, there's still work to be done. So every time something happened that triggered something inside of me, I would stop and I'd say to the Father, okay, let's work on that. Why did I feel like that? Why did I say that? What was the root issue that is there? Okay, so my inner healing journey has been since 2000. So I've been on a 20-year inner healing journey. And I'm nowhere near looking like Jesus yet.
Right. I'm not sure I know anybody who really is.
Exactly. So I'm still daily working on things because I'm really grateful that I'm stepping into immortality. So actually there's even a chance that I'm going to look like Jesus, So, yeah. So from that place of living the forgiveness, what ended up happening was the Father said, I want to download for you a secular therapy called forgiveness therapy. So, so that was fine. It took a year. It took 6 months of me just spending time with him every single day. And I could feel him putting things in my spirit. I had no cognitive understanding of what was happening, but every day I would sit with him and I'd open up my spirit to receive whatever he had for me. And I knew that he was downloading something.
You know, that's an important concept, because a lot of times we think we need to know what's going on. In fact, I do. I'm an architect. I'm very analytical. I want to know what's going on. And if I just kind of feel this warm fuzzy or tingling or just something, I'm like, well, what is it? What does it mean for our lives? What does it look like? How do I walk this out? How do I declare it? How do I, manifest it? So that's amazing that you were willing for 6 months to not know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been living the not know life for a long time now. So bearing in mind, my previous life was the spreadsheet girl.
Yeah.
So I had the spreadsheets and I could do investments. I could do you a 2-year projection, 5-year projection, 10-year projection. These are the graphs. This is how it's going to happen. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then
I understand.
yeah. And then he was like, no, that's not how I work.
Oh, my
I don't work like that because you keep getting in my way.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. No one likes to be told that, do they? You keep getting in my way, so I'm not going to tell you what we're doing and I'm not going to show you what's happening. I just want your surrender. So, so I lived in the place of surrender and said, okay. And then, you see, that's that exact thing is what he showed me, was that if I tell you, what you'll do is you'll grab hold of that, you'll jump out of the chair. Okay, I got that. Step aside. Let's make this happen. And he's like, do you think I can't make it happen? Do you think I actually need you to make it happen?
I'm his hands and feet.
I am
He needs me.
Yeah, but he only needs you if you'll do it his way.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Wow. Yep.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're not his hands and feet. You're just usurping his power to be your hands and feet.
Good. Yeah.
So, and when he started to talk to me about, am I your sugar daddy? I don't know if you have that expression here. Do you have that expression?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
He's like, do you only love me for my bank account? What if I had an empty bank account? Would you still love me? Yeah. So anyway, that's when I started to learn how to love him because he loves me. So not love him because he's going to give me, open up the way for my destiny. He's going to empower me. He's going to equip me. No, just to climb up onto his lap and love him because he loves me. And from that place, my protection came. From my place of vulnerability with him, he became my protector. And he gave me a strategy of how to live in the place of protection. And that strategy is in a sentence that is I think it's in Philippians. And I never understood that sentence. It says, do everything as unto the Lord. And I never understood that sentence until he started to unpack it for me as my protection. See, if I do something for you, then I have an expectation from you. Even if I say that I don't expect anything back from you, as soon as I do something for you, what I'm doing is I am giving you the opportunity to disappoint me. Because somewhere in my psyche, there's an expectation of how you're going to behave towards me, how you're going to treat me, or how you're going to pay me back at some point in time, or something. But if I do it for him, I'm completely safe. Because first of all, you can't disappoint me. Okay? So and second of all, I've invested my time and energy into him. So I've got the return of heaven coming my way, not the return of Bralynn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the return of heaven is 30, 60, and 100-fold. I'm going to choose that every day of the week, because that's an absolute certainty. That is the interest rate of heaven when I invest in heaven.
Nice, yeah.
So I started my own inner healing journey. I was allowing him to download this therapy. And so then what happened was, after 6 months, he said, okay, I'm done downloading it now. Now you can regurgitate it. Well, I mean, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
So I got a pad and a pen, and I just started to write now, okay, he's telling me that I'm going to pioneer a therapy. I had never even sat in a therapy session. I didn't even know how therapy works. And I'm going to pioneer a therapy. See, this is what I love about him, because every time I say to him, I'm not equipped or qualified, what he says to me is, no, that is not true. What is true is you have nothing to unlearn.
Wow. That is profound.
Yeah. So you are totally equipped and qualified, because I'm going to teach you from heaven's perspective. You don't have any of the muckiness that the world has put on you that says, this is how you function, this is how it works, this is why it works, all of that. You don't have any of that. Mm-hmm. So when I say you can do this, you're just going to believe me because you don't know any different. So I started to then write as I was, I would just write every morning when we were spending time together. I would just write it. And then I got excited by it. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to set aside like weeks. So what happened was I just set aside weeks, and every day I would just spend the day with him, and it would just come out, and he'd show me this and he'd show me this. And I wrote the workbook that was going to be the client's workbook. So then he said to me, okay, so now from there, what we need to do is we need to have a practitioner workbook, because you're going to train up some forgiveness therapists and they're not going to have a clue what they're doing, because you haven't got a clue what you're doing. I'm like, you're absolutely right. He said, so now I'm going to show you how to put together the practitioner workbook. So then I put together the practitioner workbook. And then I went into Marketplace, because I'd taken time out. I went into Marketplace. I said, listen, guys, the reason why I took time out is because the Lord's downloaded me this therapy that we're going to be doing. So I'm looking for some people who want to volunteer to be trained up as therapists. Okay. I have never sat in a therapy session. I've never met a therapist. And I'm going to train a team of therapists. So you see, the thing is, I've got to the place where I believe my dad when he says I can. That's the thing. So what was really, really gracious of him was that he brought across my path a psychiatrist with over 50 years experience, and his wife, who was a qualified counselor of 25 years experience. So they were my sounding block. Okay, so I would say, this is what I feel the Father is saying. And then they would give me advice. So there were some times when the Father said, no, you're not going to listen to that, because this is an absolute. But actually, yes, it would be help you, take on board what they're saying about this, because actually you haven't got a clue what you're doing. Okay, so he was very gracious in bringing people across my path who could help me navigate this. And also what happened was it brought credibility in the world's eyes to what we were doing.
Right.
So anyway, I then trained up this team of therapists, and I said, we're not trained until we've walked through the therapy. So we're all going to be clients, and we're all going to be therapists, and we're going to work with each other. So we did that for several weeks. And then we had our last meeting just before Christmas. And at that meeting, because I said, next year we're going to launch the therapy. And somebody said, how are we going to launch the therapy? I said, well, it's actually not my job. It's not my problem. I've done what the Lord's asked me to do.
Of course you're going to say that. Oh, Lindy. We're going to do a cruise. We're going to do a what? What?
But you see, when people say this is what we're going to do, I keep going back and saying, is that what the Father's asked you to do? Because if that's what the Father's asked you to do, it's a no-brainer. It is happening. If this is your idea, hey, count me out.
Yeah.
Okay. So we started the next year in second week of January. And what happened was, pastor friend that I know, a guy who pastors a church, he came to me one day and he said, listen, I've got this guy. He is suicidal. I've spoken to him. I've tried to reason with him, but he's not having it. Would you spend some time with him? I said, absolutely. So he came through the door and I sat and I just listened to his story. And I was thinking to myself, my goodness me, you know, when I listen to people's stories and it breaks my heart. So I'm listening to his story and I'm just asking the Lord, what is my part in this? What do you want me to do? He said to me, offer him forgiveness therapy. So now all I'm hearing is his story, why he's done and he wants out. Okay, that's all. You know, I'm hearing his pain is what I'm hearing. So offer him forgiveness therapy, the Father says. So I say to him, look, we're about to launch a trial for a new therapy that we've developed. It's called forgiveness therapy. It's a 12-week course, 1 hour each week. Are you interested? And he said, yes. Where can I sign? What do I have to do to sign up for this? So I said to him, just give me a minute. I'll go and get you an application form. So I rushed upstairs, turned my computer on and typed up an application form because I didn't have one yet. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Printed it out, went downstairs. I said, here's the application form. Would you like to sign the application form? So he filled it out and signed it. And that was, you know, I scheduled him a session. I booked him for 2 weeks' time. So that was great. Now, what I didn't know was that he had just been to the doctors, and the doctor's surgery, or I don't know what you call it here, clinic. And in the UK, they're called doctor surgeries. So the doctor's surgery is just about 100 yards from where we're stationed from our building. And he'd been to the doctors and he had asked the doctors for help. He'd basically said, I have a 4-year-old daughter. I am dosed up to the eyeballs on antidepressants and none of the stuff that you're giving me is helping. I need another form of help. I need therapy. Now, in the UK, the Anxiety and Depression Service has a year waiting list. Wow. Okay. So the doctor said, I actually don't know what the doctor said, but what he heard was, there's nothing that we can do for you, which is why he became suicidal, which is why he went to go and speak to Mark, the pastor, and say, I'm coming to say goodbye because I'm out of here. Okay. So I didn't know any of that. The next day, he goes back to the doctor's surgery and he says, I'd like to make an official complaint. So I'd like to see the practice manager. So the practice manager comes out and says, how can I help you? He says, I came in here yesterday and I asked for help. I was told that there was nothing you can do for me. I left here suicidal. I went to go and speak to my pastor, who introduced me to a lady who is trialing a therapy 100 yards up the road. I've signed up for her therapy, but what I want to know is why you aren't working with her. If you can do nothing for me, why are you not working with her? Wow. Now, I don't know if all this is going on, okay? So 2 days later, the Lord says to me, I want you to take some referral forms to the doctor's surgery. Okay, so I'm having this internal struggle. I'm like, Father, I can't walk into a professional organization like a doctor's surgery with not one qualification about anything and ask them to refer their patients to this therapy. Okay, bearing in mind in the UK, that's a big deal. It's a government institution. Okay, so the government institution refers to another government institution. For you to get a referral from the doctor's surgery, you got to be all singing and dancing because it's a government organization. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, When I start to argue with the Lord, he becomes very silent. So I'm like, okay, you're serious about this. Okay. So I didn't have any referral forms at that point in time. Siri's just decided to pop into the conversation.
Oh, that's funny. See, they're always listening.
They're always listening.
I tell you. That's another conversation.
So anyway, typed up some referral forms and went over to the doctor's surgery, asked to see the practice manager. And I said, I don't know if you're even vaguely interested in this, but we're trialing a therapy. We're offering it for free while we do the trial. We're using, and I talked to her about the industry because of the psychiatrist's input. What he said was, you really need to use industry recognized questionnaires. So there are industry recognized questionnaires that are used nationwide in the UK to assess anxiety and depression. And so, I talked to her as though I knew what I was talking about. And so it obviously made her feel some level of confidence. I know that actually what the Lord was doing was he was opening the door. And I said, I'd like to leave some referral forms with you. She said, well, actually, she said, we had a patient come in here 2 days ago and tell us about the therapy. And I was actually just wondering how I can be in touch with you and how we could work together. Oh. So, when I say I don't have to worry about how he's going to launch something, I literally mean I don't have to worry about it.
Oh my God.
So we ran a trial for 2 years. We gathered phenomenal statistics from the trial. We've now got centers running all over the world from a therapy developed by somebody who has not one jot of any kind of qualification other than her father qualified her. And he is a genius therapist.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So from there, we then developed something called identity therapy. The course that I told you that the government asked us to develop is called Surviving to Thriving, and that utilizes the tools that he showed me. And what really is interesting is that when he downloaded the forgiveness therapy in 2015, the news was all about the breakthroughs in medicine, discovering the link between holding a grudge and physical ailments. Okay, mm-hmm. So recently the breakthroughs have been in neuroscience, where they're discovering that actually we can actually be our own neurosurgeons. We can reprogram our brains, and so he's been teaching me all that kind of stuff. And so I've now devised this course that we're using with, in conjunction with local government, helping people move from a place of surviving to thriving, hence the name. Mm-hmm. But what he's really shown me in all of this is how to work with non-believers, but function with what I carry. So when we're training, we only train up believers to minister and release the therapies that he's given us, because actually he is the key in all the therapies. We just don't call him Jesus. So, when we do any kind of work with the clients, what we're doing is we're getting them to engage with the peace in the room. Well, mm-hmm. As soon as they come into agreement to engage with the peace in the room, Jesus is the Prince of Peace. So there are various ways in which he's taught us how to get people to engage with the life force of heaven, because that's where the change is. See? Mm. So when you can follow Holy Spirit, when I do my corporate sessions, every single one of them is different. Because every time I go into a corporate setting, I have between 15 and 25 individuals in that, unique individuals in that room. And so the Holy Spirit is going to lead me and navigate me around the needs of those people in that room, because that's who he is. He's a God of the individual. So when you're able to follow his lead and he's taught you the jargon to use, that actually in everything, all you're trying to do is you're trying to allay the intellect to allow the spirit to engage. So basically, that's how I do everything I do. When I do teachings, if I'm doing teaching, my whole focus is to bring you to an activation, okay? Because that's where the magic happens.
Right.
And in my teaching, what I'm doing is I'm giving you enough information for you to satisfy your brain. Because when your brain is satisfied, you will open yourself up to engage with whatever's happening. So that's how I do everything I do. I give you enough information to satisfy your brain, and then I engage spirit to spirit where the magic happens.
That is so good, and that's what you're going to be teaching in the academy, and I'm so excited about that. But I do have a question. How do you market to corporations that speaks to what they need, or what they think they need, or what is their pain point in the solution that you bring?
Okay, so that's the thing, is that I'm not actually big on marketing, because the Lord markets me.
So it's a referral.
So okay, let me tell you how I got into what I now call potential maximizing. So basically what happened was I got offered a job. So the Lord asked me if I'd move to California, and then I got offered a job by a company in California. And when I asked them, what do you want me to do? Because they had invited me onto their spiritual board, and I'd been working with them on their spiritual board. Okay, so that's another thing that I do. Go in the spirit, see what's happening, bring the supernatural and the natural together to enable people to navigate and understand what's happening in the natural, and teach them how to engage with the supernatural so that they can start to get the blueprints and mandates for themselves, for their own businesses, understanding their authority, their identity, their call and their mandate, so that we can actually see the two come together and the way to open up. So I'd been working with this company for about a year, and then they offered me a job, and they wanted me to be part of their C-suite. And I said, what do you want me to do? And she said, write your own job description. So I went to the Father. I said, what am I doing? He said, you're going to be the potential maximizing officer. And then he started to talk to me about how exactly, excuse me, because she asked me for my bio. So he basically gave me my bio. This is what you do.
Wow.
And from there, I stepped into being the potential maximizing consultant that I function in, because that's what he told me. That's what he told me who I am, and that's what he told me what I do. So when I set up lindystrong.com, I haven't marketed that at all, because he told me to do it. He set my pricing structures, and I am actually only interested in, you see, I have enough money not to have to worry about anything. And I also understand that whether I take a nap or raise the dead, the pay is the same.
Oh, that's so good. Oh
okay. So I don't want to be doing anything for the sake of works. I'm not interested. I would actually rather sit and put my feet up and have a cup of coffee. Watch a movie. Then work for the sake of work. So I am not looking to generate work. I'm looking for the Father to highlight to the people who are just perfectly ripe for who I am and what I have. He will highlight me to them. They will find my website. They will engage with me, and I'll work with them. So that's kind of how I function.
That's so good.
Does that mean that everything goes the way I think it's going to go every single time? No. But that's okay with me, because it goes the way the Father wanted it to go. And that's more important to me. And the way the Father wanted it to go is that way for a very specific reason. And I'm not going to fight against that reason because he knows best.
Brilliant. Wow. I just definitely need to work on that. Oh my gosh, that is so good, Lindy. Wow, we have been on this call. I don't even know how long. This is just like so good. And to tell you the truth, I could keep going, but I can't.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you again, Lindy. This has just been so amazing. I'm looking forward to the classes that we're teaching together. For those people who do join the cruise, we are offering some master classes that we're going to be doing before September along the way, and some activations so that they can implement right away rather than waiting until September. And so again, I just want to let people know, spiritcenteredbusiness.com, and click on the cruise button there. You can learn more about it and sign up there. And Lindy, people can get a hold of you through Marketplace Ministries?
Yep, or lindystrong.com.
Or lindystrong.com. Okay, excellent. And I will have those links to her and her contact information in the show notes as well. So is there anything else that you would like to promote or let people know about what you're doing before we sign off?
Probably the only thing is the healing and restoration platform. So that is one of the things that the Lord's had me busy doing. So what it is a subscription platform where you subscribe and you get a whole lot of teaching. There are workbooks that go with the teaching. Really what I'm looking for is to build a community globally of people who are wanting to get whole and see in the spirit realm so that they can function in the fullness of where they're going. But in order for that to happen, you need to be able to, you need to be prepared to pay the price, because salvation is free, but your destiny will cost you everything. Matthew 19, have a look at it. It will cost you everything to walk in what he has for you. So I'm looking for the people who are serious, really. So if you're serious, the website is HR for healing and restoration. So hr.marketplaceministries.co.uk.
Okay. And I will have that in the show notes for anyone who missed it. There you go. All right. Thank you again, Lindy. I just so love you so much. I love your stuff. And we have so much more to talk about. Oh goodness, this opened up just, I can see so many different avenues where that would be just fascinating and insightful for people. And thank you again to the audience. Be sure to subscribe, like, share with your friends wherever you're listening. We are spiritcenteredbusiness.com. If you go to the podcast page, actually, I think on the homepage too, you'll see all of the different media networks. Thank you to Fringe Radio Network, who sends our podcast out to all of these different platforms. We are syndicated through them, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, and a whole bunch of others. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing this awesome message and sharing the movement of what spiritcenteredbusiness.com is doing. I so appreciate you. And until the next time, stay spirit-centered. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Centered Business with Bralynn Newby. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. The next stage of doing business by being spirit-centered is coming together in collaboration, working with spiritual principles and knowing our destiny. Join our tribe at spiritcenteredbusiness.com, and we'll catch you on the next broadcast. Peace out.